What's up, y'all? It's your boy Zach here. Welcome back to another episode of The Breakdown. And today's film we have is Antwone Fisher. It stars Denzel Washington, Derek Luke, Joy Bryant, Corey Hodges, Viola Davis, Sally Richardson, Yolanda Ross, Kevin Connolly, Earl Billings, Novella Nelson, Sung Kang, and Leonard Earl House. This was a great film based upon it's a true story about Antwone Fisher, a man who was born in a correctional facility, I think, in I forgot what state it was. I want to say it was like Illinois. And he never knew his mother. She was in prison. She was pregnant with him while she was in prison. And then he ended up, and his father was murdered by his ex-girlfriend. And then he ended up getting out, going to foster care, and was just totally abused by his foster mother and the woman that she had living at her house. You know what I'm saying? She used to beat them, almost threatened to set him on fire, make him feel bad about who he was. And then the woman living in the house, she was a little bit younger than the older woman that was actually taking care of him. She used to molest him. And it just totally messed him up. And he ended up going into the Navy and ended up just getting into fights with his fellow Navy men, and then he ended up having to go see Denzel Washington for therapy, and he was trying to help him as best as he could with his issues, and he slowly but surely started to open up to him, and he got really close to him and his family, and then he ends up going on this journey with this lovely young woman that he meets named Cheryl to find his own family. And it was just a beautiful journey of a young man healing from trauma and pain. Obviously I mentioned all the things that he had been through before. And he was just hurt and just angry and lashing out. And, him being molested as a young child is the reason why he was a virgin all the way up until the point where he was 24 years old. He was 24 years old, the same age as me. And he was still a virgin because he was so just messed up and just so traumatized from the woman molesting him as a child. He said, she put, her tongue in his mouth, and, he ended up throwing up. He hated it. And then he ended up running out the door and going down the street to his best friend's house. And then one day his foster mother kicked him out the house. He went to, back to the orphanage. They sent him to a reform school, and then he ended up coming back, and then he basically, I guess, got grown, and he had to go to like a homeless shelter for men, and he ended up coming back to his foster family's neighborhood. Knocked on his best friend's door. He was so happy, saying, "What's up with you, man? How you been, bro?" You know what I'm saying? He said, "You can come here." My mom, you know what I'm saying, she wouldn't even know that because he was like, why are you sleeping on the street? Why don't you come stay here with me? And he's like, "Man, your mama ain't gonna let me stay here, man, with all the people you got up in here." And he's like, "No, man, she's always working day and night, or sleep, so we cool, we good. You can stay here, it's all good. Come on in." So, he comes in, and then, he gives him something to eat, and he says, "You my best friend, right?" I said, "Yeah, man, yeah, yeah." He said, and then they go for a walk, and they go to the store, and his best friend named Jesse ends up robbing the store owner, but he ends up getting shot in the head by the store owner, killing him in the process, and it messes him up, and he feels a lot of pain and anger and resentment towards his best friend, because, he was the one person that he had, and he ended up leaving him. And it made him feel fucked up, and it's just really powerful, as black men, growing up in the hood and in the environment we grew up in, unfortunately, a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times we end up losing, people very close to us, due to violence, and we don't have the opportunity to go to therapy, go on medication, or just take time off from work or school. We usually just gotta just keep it pushing and just heal with time as we go along. And I just think sometimes that can be so dangerous. Sometimes it could just be so destructive. Being so young and having to go through just such trauma and loss, and the grieving process is really real and really long. Sometimes we don't get a chance to properly grieve the way that we should. If a white boy growing up in the suburbs, his best friend dies of a drug overdose, I'm pretty sure they're going to take him out of school and put him on medication, have him see a therapist, and give him time to, heal. But, sometimes that's not always the case for us. And, yeah, he would just, he was going through it, but Denzel helps him. He brings him into the fold, helps him to heal slowly but surely, and shows him a lot of love and compassion, and helps him really get to the root of his problem. And then when he's in Mexico partying with his friends, they make fun of him for never being with a woman. They call him, a faggot. He goes off. He beats up one of his fellow seamen, and he goes to jail. And Denzel comes and visits him, and he talks to him, and says, why did that set you up so much? And he finally tells him he was molested as a child and everything like that. But yeah, he just he was really trying to heal from all his trauma and pain, and Denzel, he killed it as a director, and I really think patience is the key to helping people. There's a J. Cole line in the song Snow on the Bluff. He said, I would say it's more effective to treat people like children, understanding the time and love and patience that's needed to grow. And I think that's so true. You got to treat people like children and treat them like delicate flowers in a garden. I used to help my aunt, mulch her garden and plant her plants every year, and I've helped my mother garden and planted her plants for her, on Mother's Day and various other times. And it really takes time, and you really got to tend to it and be gentle and give it plenty of water and sunlight and nutrients. And I think it's similar when you're trying to help someone else grow and heal. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of love, it takes a lot of support and empathy to help a person reach their goals of, ultimately never truly getting over something maybe, but getting to a better place where they can function more at a higher level. Because I feel like pain is always still with you. But if you can get to that place where you have purpose and love and happiness in your life, and you can better deal with your depression or your anxiety or anger, then that's a beautiful thing. So yeah, Denzel, he killed it as a director. I think this was his first film, and I wish Derek Luke had been a bigger career. Obviously as a black actor, I understand it's very hard to find a lot of roles and get a lot of opportunities that your white counterparts have. But honestly, I thought that he was great in this movie. He's got a lot of charisma. He's got a lot of charm. He's got a strong screen presence, and I think he has a lot of range as an actor. Obviously, he's done a lot of other projects. Friday Night Lights, Madea Goes to Jail. He was in the Notorious movie as Diddy. And he's going to be in the new Michael Jackson movie as Johnny Cochran. So I can't wait to see him again and see what he does, because I think he's a really, really dope actor. I really love his work. And the two generations, helping each other was really, really beautiful. And because at the end he says to Denzel, I owe you a lot for, you telling me to track down my family and me ultimately finding them. And then Denzel says to him, no, I owe you because you came into my life. Because him and his wife couldn't have children, and he was just in kind of think like a stagnant place. And he says, you came into my life and you gave me a purpose again, and now I'm a better doctor, and I'm working on being a better husband. So I thought it was really, really something that the two generations helped each other out, and that's how it should be. It shouldn't be, the old against the young. It should be, the older and the young, helping each other and teaching each other, and coming together to make the world better. And I know it's not always going to be heaven on earth type of situation, but if people of two generations can come together more often for greatness, whether it be in work, whether it be in business, whether it be in arts, whether it be a friendship in a healing journey, whether it be in a relationship, I just think that's dope. I just think that's the way it should be. Absolutely, 100%. So, yeah, I totally support that. And I thought it was really great that you had this older man helping this younger man with his healing and on his journey, and the younger man was helping the older man, but he didn't even realize it until he said something. I'm glad Denzel was man enough to say that, and he actually did say it. I thought that was beautiful. And I think a big theme of this movie is no matter how much the world tries to destroy you, you can overcome it. Where you can overcome it to become a good man or a good woman. I grew up and I had a two-parent household. My mother and father, I love them to death. They've always shown me love. They've always treated me well. They've always taken care of me and done their best to do right by me. And for the most part, they always have. And I'm forever grateful and blessed to have them in my life. And, but I've been through a lot in my life, being picked on as a kid, feeling insecure, losing a lot of friends, going from job to job, my bout with drug addiction. I done been through the ringer, heartbreak, everything you can think of that a young man goes through. And, as a man, I found purpose in my life. I found happiness. I found family. I found redemption. And, I'm still on my life journey working to heal myself. And I'm in a better spot mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And I'm just blessed. And I got to give credit and all thanks to God for that. But, right now I'm just happy to be alive, and I'm just blessed to, have the opportunities that I have in my life, and that God gave me a second chance, because he could have easily took me out. He easily could have let me die. I could have died easily, y'all. Lying on my bedroom floor, overdosed, and going to jail, all types of shit, man. Just, dealing with bullshit, stuff that could have been avoided, but me not dealing with my own pain and my own demons is what, I feel like caused it. I'm not using it as an excuse, but I think that's really like the root of it all. Is, when you're doing certain things, you're trying to mask it. You're trying to mask your pain with whatever, drinking, drugs, smoking, sex, you know what I mean? And honestly, it's just not worth it. You have to deal with your problems, or your problems are going to deal with you. So, bottom line is, I'm a better man today than I was before, and I'm just going to keep on growing and moving forward, knowing I'll never be perfect, but always striving to be the best version of myself. And, yeah, it was just a really, really great movie. Oh, the last point I'd say is that the scene, the ending where he met his whole family, he came back from meeting his real mom. He went to see her. He went to go talk to his foster family, and that's when they tried to hug him. He said, don't even. And he told him, like, you tried to destroy me, but I'm still standing tall and strong, and I'm here. You couldn't break me. And he just wanted information, like what was his father's real name. And he finally tracked down, with the help of his beautiful girlfriend Cheryl, who was also in the Navy, he finally tracked down his real family. And they took him to see his real mother. And, he told her of all the things that he was doing. all the things that he had become, and said, you know, I missed you, did you miss me? And played by Viola Davis, his real mother, she couldn't even say nothing. She was living in like the projects. You can tell she was fucked up, just living a kind of what seemed like a sheltered, isolated, lonely existence. And you know, he just gave her a kiss on the cheek, said what he had to say, and he left. But when he came back to his aunt's house, his whole family was there. His grandmother was there. You know, they had cooked a meal for him. They all were holding up signs saying, like, you know, welcome home. They were just so happy to see him. They were so graceful, embracing, and welcoming and loving, and it was just beautiful. It almost brought tears to my eyes, man. I loved it. It was a beautiful scene. It was one of the most beautiful scenes I'd ever seen in a movie. And it was just so well shot and so well filmed. So, with that being said, I love y'all, and I highly recommend that y'all watch this movie. It was beautiful. And until next time, peace, love, and soul.